0600 hours, southern Zaporizhzhia. A BTR-82A rolls into a Ukrainian forward position that Russian intelligence has been watching for 9 days. 15 vehicles in the column, roughly 120 dismounts riding the hulls. A pre-registered minefield they never saw. 51 minutes later, every vehicle is burning, 7 dismount squads are combat effective, and the position they thought they had captured had never been Ukrainian in the operational sense at all. It was built to be captured. And the 46th Air Assault Brigade had been feeding the 58th Combined Arms Army the picture of that position, one scripted radio transmission at a time, since the middle of the month. The math was wrong before the first tire touched the field. This is Fury Military, where we break down the battles that are quietly rewriting this war. Today we're looking at the engagement at Piatykhatky in southern Zaporizhzhia Oblast, and why a lure and trap built by a single Ukrainian brigade matters far more than a burned company of BTR-82As. What happened on that field in the early hours of the morning is not just 15 vehicles lost, it is the third documented Ukrainian lure trap of the summer, and the moment when Ukrainian brigades stopped reacting to Russian offensive decisions and started shaping them. Here is what most reporting missed. The strike did not begin at 6 in the morning. It began 9 days earlier, when the 46th Engineering Platoon walked out to a stretch of open ground at the seam between the Robotyne salient and the Vasylivka axis, and started building a target the 58th CAA's intelligence cell could not resist. Plywood dugouts spaced the way a lightly defended forward company would space them. Thermal decoys warm enough to catch on a Russian Orlan 10 pass. A decoy striker mock-up positioned exactly where a real vehicle would leak infrared through camouflage netting. And the most expensive part, which cost nothing at all, a scripted radio net leak, deliberately sloppy, deliberately human, that fed Russian signals intelligence the picture of an understrength Ukrainian company with a nervous new lieutenant and a broken TACSAT. None of it was real. All of it was designed to be believed. Before we get to the collapse, the asset, the BTR-82A is Russia's workhorse wheeled infantry fighting vehicle, an upgrade of the older BTR-80, produced at the Arzamas plant and pushed hard through the last 2 years of the war. It carries a 2A72 30mm autocannon, a coaxial PKT machine gun, and a squad of 8 dismounts riding what the crews call the coffin, the exposed rear compartment where infantry sit above the wheel wells with roughly 9mm of armor between their spines and whatever hits the side. Cost per unit, on paper, around $800,000. On the battlefield of 2026, replacement cost, with Western sanctions on optics and running gear, runs closer to $1.1 million. A company of 15 is a $12 million formation before you count the trained crews. That is the vehicle Russian doctrine says you use to overrun a lightly defended forward position. Speed, mass, cheap enough to lose one, tough enough that the survivors close the ground. It exists to punish exactly the picture the 46th built. And here is your first quiz. Of the 3 links in the kill chain that closed on that column, the 9 days of decoy signature that lured them in, the pre-registered TM62 minefield extended by remotely emplaced Volya mines that stopped the lead vehicle, or the 2S-22 Bohdana artillery from the 55th Brigade that walked the column apart in the first 11 minutes, which one actually decided the engagement? A. The deception. B. The mines. C. The artillery. Drop your answer in the comments. I'll tell you which at the end, and the answer surprises most people. The intelligence build began in mid-June. Militarnyi, which later geolocated the position, confirmed it sits inside a corridor the 58th CAA had been probing for a cheap penetration since May, the seam where the Robotyne salient thins out and the Vasylivka axis picks up. Russian battalion tactical groups had been running probing attacks against real Ukrainian positions in the corridor for 6 weeks, taking losses that never showed up on Russian millblogger channels. The 58th's operations cell was under pressure to produce a captured objective. The 46th knew it. And the 46th knew, from 3 months of intercepted traffic that Defense Express later summarized, exactly what kind of target that operations cell was looking for. So they built one. The spine number of this engagement is 9. 9 days of decoy signature. 9 days of false radio traffic. 9 days in which a Russian Orlan 10, then a Zala 421 16E, then a Supercam S350, then finally a Merlin VR, came over the position at altitudes between 1,800 and 2,400 meters, and every one of them fed the picture home. 9 days is a very long window. Long enough that a good intelligence officer starts to suspect the target is too consistent, and on day 6, according to a Russian-language Milblogger post that Astra archived before it was deleted, someone in the 58th's targeting cell did flag exactly that. He was overruled. That is where this operation almost died. Stay with this. What happens in the next 51 minutes takes a full mechanized company off the Zaporizhzhia front and reshapes how the 58th CAA is willing to commit armor for the rest of the summer. The overrule happened because the 58th needed the win. The pressure came from above the CAA level, the same pressure that has been pushing Russian formations into cheap penetration attempts along the entire southern front since spring, when the summer campaign quietly failed to deliver a single named settlement. When a lieutenant colonel in a targeting cell says, "This feels wrong," and a general officer says, "Commit the company commits," and the 46th, watching the Russian ISR pattern shift on day 7 from surveillance to pre-strike reconnaissance, knew the trigger had been pulled. Now hold this number for later. How many BTR-82As did the 46th actually destroy before the column reached the tree line at the far edge of the field? Not the final total, just the number destroyed before the survivors even got within small arms range of what they thought was the objective. 9, 11, 14? Hold that number, we come back to it. 0606. The column moved. 15 BTR-82As from a battalion of the 42nd Motor Rifle Division, part of the 58th CAA's order of battle, in a loose diamond with 2 vehicles forward, 10 in the main body, 3 in trail. Roughly 120 dismounts. Doctrine says the dismounts stay mounted through the assault line and dismount at the objective. Doctrine assumed the objective existed. 0603, the lead vehicle mined. This is where the geometry of the kill chain starts to work. The TM-62 is an old Soviet anti-tank mine, 10 kilos of TNT. Cheap, patient, still perfectly capable of removing a wheel station and a driver from a BTR-82A. The 46th Engineers had seeded a belt along the natural approach lane weeks earlier. The clever part is what they added in the last 72 hours. Ukrainian-produced Volya, remotely emplaced mines, dropped by a heavy multi-rotor at night, positioned to close the escape routes on both flanks. The lead vehicle hit the TM-62 belt. The 2 vehicles that tried to reverse and flank hit Volyas that had not been there the night before. The column stopped. That was the trigger. 0611. The first 2 S-22 Bohdana rounds arrived. The Bohdana is a Ukrainian-designed 155mm self-propelled howitzer, built by Kramatorsk Heavy Machine Building before that plant was relocated, now produced at a dispersed set of facilities that Ukraine will not disclose. Range with base bleed rounds is around 42 kilometers. The battery from the 55th Artillery Brigade was firing from roughly 18. Time of flight, 43 seconds. Fire mission length, 11 minutes. Approximately 30 rounds. That is not a lot of shells. It is what you send when your forward observer has already given you 5 10-digit grids, and the Fire Direction Center has spent the last 4 days pre-computing every meter of the impact area. The artillery did not need to destroy the vehicles. It needed to keep them stopped. Subscribe to Fury Military if you want to understand how this war is actually fought, system by system. Because what happens next is not a Bohdana video. It is the moment when Ukrainian artillery becomes the anvil, and something much cheaper becomes the hammer. The FPV teams from the brigade's UAV company had been holding, in defilade, in a tree line 3.2 kilometers to the east. 2 flights. The first was Vampire heavy hexacopters, the Ukrainian-produced night strike drone that carries anti-tank submunitions and a thermal camera, operator range around 10 kilometers on a good link. The second was standard 7-inch FPVs, the ones you see in every geolocated engagement clip out of Zaporizhzhia. Single use, roughly $500 a frame, RPG warhead strapped to the nose, 15 minutes of flight time, 1 job. 0614 through 0648, 34 minutes of close-in work. The Vampires went first because the thermal signature of a burning vehicle blooms and blinds the small FPV cameras. The Vampires worked the vehicles that were still trying to maneuver, the ones on the flanks, the ones trying to bull back through the field the way they came. Each drop was a Ukrainian-produced RKG 1600 submunition, shaped charge, roughly 1.5 kilos of explosive, dropped from between 80 and 120 meters onto the engine deck. The BTR-82A's engine deck is where the armor stops being armor. A single RKG 1600 on the engine deck ends the vehicle. Then the small FPVs took over. This is where the video that eventually made it to the OSINT channels comes from. Astra published the burning column footage roughly 4 hours after the last vehicle stopped moving. Tochnyi geolocated 3 of the wrecks by the tree pattern behind them. The 46th's own drone footage, released later through Ukrainian ground forces channels, showed the small FPVs working the dismounts who had bailed out and gone to ground in the shell craters. That is the part of modern armor warfare that Russian doctrine has not adapted to. When you bail out of a BTR-82A because the vehicle is on fire, doctrine says you go to ground and wait for the artillery to lift. In 2026, going to ground is going to a coordinate. The FPV finds you in the crater. 7 dismount squads eliminated as fighting force. That is the phrase in the after-action language. It does not mean 7 squads killed to the man. It means 7 squads that cannot function as a fighting unit. Some killed, some wounded, some who threw down weapons and started walking back toward Russian lines and did not survive that walk. 0651. Last vehicle burning. 51 minutes from the tripwire to the end. Total Ukrainian expenditure, as best it can be reconstructed from open source reporting. The pre-existing minefield, sunk cost, roughly a dozen Volya mines at maybe $800 a unit, approximately $3,500 a round including base bleed, 8 to 10 Vampire sorties with RKG 1600 submunitions at roughly $4,000 per drop, and somewhere between 25 and 40 FPV frames at $500 each. Total, comfortably under $250,000. Russian loss, hardware only. 15 BTR-82As at replacement cost, plus the personnel loss of 7 dismount squads worth of trained infantry, $12 million in vehicles alone. The exchange ratio does not need adjectives. 250,000 against 12 million, 50 to 1. If you believe tactics win wars, type fury in the comments. Now, here is where the official line matters. Within 4 hours of the last vehicle burning, a Rybar-adjacent Russian Milblogger channel published a summary that described a successful advance to a captured Ukrainian position in the Piatykhatky sector, complete with a claim of Ukrainian dead and abandoned equipment. The position had never been Ukrainian. That is the point. The dugouts were plywood. The Striker mock-up was a mock-up. The abandoned equipment in the Russian claim was thermal decoys that had been sitting in that field for 9 days. The Russian channel updated the post twice, then quietly took it down when Astra published the burning column footage from the Ukrainian side. Defense Express carried the engagement in the evening. Militarnyi geolocated. ISW Zaporizhzhia thread that night flagged what everyone in Ukrainian ground force circles was already saying. This is doctrinal. The strategic ripple is where this stops being one engagement and starts being a pattern. According to ISW's assessment thread the following day, the 58th CAA's tempo of probing attacks along the Robotyne Vasylivka seam dropped noticeably in the 72 hours after Piatykhatky. When you are the operations officer who committed a company to a bait position, the next attack you sign off on is one you stare at 3 times longer. That hesitation has a cost. That cost compounds. Multiply it across a season and you get what CICS analysts have been describing since spring as Russia's summer campaign shortfall, the inability to convert numerical superiority into shaped ground. There is a broader pattern worth noting. The 3rd Assault Brigade ran a similar architecture near Bakhmut in early June against a TOS-1A battery. The 47th Brigade ran a variant near Kupiansk in July against a Russian reconnaissance in force. Piatykhatky is the 3rd documented lure trap of the summer. What used to require a division-level deception operation with a core intelligence staff, a Ukrainian brigade now assembles with an engineering platoon, a UAV company, a battery in support, and 9 days of patience. That is the shift. The sanctuary myth here is subtler than the Crimea strikes or the deep refinery raids. It is not a place Russia thought was untouchable, it is a picture Russia trusted. Russian doctrine, and by doctrine, I mean the actual behavior of Russian officers making targeting decisions under pressure, has been built on the assumption that if the ISR picture is consistent for a week and the radio net leaks the right kind of nervousness, the target is real. The 46th made a picture that consistent for 9 days on purpose. When a lieutenant colonel flagged it and got overruled, the myth had already killed the company. The dead myth is not the field or the tree line. The dead myth is Russian intelligence's trust in its own picture. Russia cannot rebuild that with a general order. The next Ukrainian forward position that looks under strength on Russian ISR is going to sit unmolested for weeks, while a Russian targeting cell talks itself into an ulcer. What would NATO have done differently with the same intelligence picture the 58th had on day 6? Tell me below. I read them. Russian failure here is not one officer's mistake. It is structural. It is a hierarchy that punishes the lieutenant colonel who says, "This feels wrong," and rewards the general officer who says, "Commit." It is a doctrine that treats a captured objective as a metric to be produced on schedule. It is a Ministry of Defense that needs to feed the Kremlin's summer campaign narrative and cannot admit that the picture the ISR cells are producing is being written by the enemy. The Moskva sank because the Black Sea Fleet trusted its own air defense picture. Sevastopol got hit because it trusted geography. The Kursk incursion embarrassed the general staff because it trusted the border. Piatykhatky continues the list. The pattern is not incompetence. It is a system that cannot metabolize the possibility that the enemy is the author of what it is seeing. 3 lessons that outlive this engagement. Tactical. A picture consistent enough to trust is a picture worth questioning. The cheaper the deception is to build, the more expensive it is to detect. 9 days of plywood beat 6 weeks of real reconnaissance. Operational. A brigade with organic engineering, UAV, and integrated artillery support can now run deception operations that used to require a division. The command echelon that owns the kill chain has dropped by a full level, and the tempo has correspondingly doubled. Strategic. When the defender begins shaping the attacker's decisions, the initiative has already changed hands, whether or not the map has moved. Territory is a lagging indicator. Behavior is a leading one. Now the questions from the top. Which link decided it? Quiz A. The answer is A, the deception. If you chose B or C, you were thinking like a Russian post-action reviewer, focused on the kinetic instruments. The mines and the artillery and the drones executed a solved problem. The engagement was decided the moment the 46th convinced the 58th's targeting cell that the field was worth taking. Everything after 06 o'clock was mechanical. If you chose C, you were thinking like a Russian logistics officer in denial, assuming the story is what killed the vehicles, rather than what put them in front of the vehicles that killed them. And Quiz B. How many BTR-82As did the 46th destroy before the survivors reached the tree line? The answer is 11. 4 vehicles made it into the belt of pre-registered artillery near the far edge and burned there. 3 of those 4 were killed by FPVs after the crews bailed out. That is the number most people carrying this story in their head are going to remember wrong. 11 vehicles killed before they closed to the fake objective. That is the shape of the modern kill chain when the deception works. 3 closing questions. Tactical. At what point in the 9-day build did the 58th's targeting cell have enough anomaly signal to stop? And what specific indicator should have tripped them? Counterfactual. If the Russian lieutenant colonel who flagged the pattern on day 6 had not been overruled, what would the 58th Zaporizhzhia posture look like today? Planner's chair. You are the 46th Brigade commander on day 7. Your ISR shows the Russian pattern shifting from surveillance to pre-strike reconnaissance. Do you commit the trap or break the position and repurpose the assets, on the assumption that the enemy has smelled it? The field outside Piatykhatky is quiet now. The wrecks are still there. Militarny's follow-up geolocation last week counted 13 recognizable BTR-82A hulls in the imagery. The other 2 collapsed too far into their own burn craters to identify from above. The plywood dugouts are gone. Somebody in a Russian targeting cell is still writing a report about what went wrong. Modern warfare punishes the assumption of safety without mercy, and it punishes the assumption of a trusted picture even harder. Real tempo, real consequences. This is Fury military. The point of this analysis is not to celebrate destruction, but to understand the military and human realities behind it. Because the clearer we see modern war, the clearer the value of deterrence, stability, and a just peace becomes.